The villa was silent at 3:07 a.m. when Mira Ramos took her last breath. By 6:47 that morning, when the housekeeper arrived with her key and called out her usual greeting, the woman who had been a nurse, a wife to 2 men, and a mother to 2 children she would never see again was already cold on the bedroom floor. No forced entry because she lived there. No stolen jewelry because that was never the plan. Just a woman in silk pajamas lying on marble floors that cost more than her entire year's salary back in Manila, her hands frozen in a position investigators would later describe as defensive. The phone on the nightstand kept buzzing. Message after message from Antonio, Manila. 14 missed calls. One final text, "Please, just tell me you're okay." She would never read it. She would never read anything again. Before the headlines, before the luxury cars and private wings, before anyone whispered the words double life or fatal obsession, there was a girl raised to believe that survival meant sacrifice, that love meant sending money home, and that sometimes the only way to save your family was to become someone else entirely. Mira Ramos is born on September 12, 1990, into a world that teaches her about scarcity before it teaches her about hope. The neighborhood where she grows up sits in the heart of Metro Manila, a dense urban sprawl where 3 families share one house, where water comes in scheduled hours, and where the sound of her mother's sewing machine runs from sunrise until long after dark. The house is small. The walls are thin enough that she can hear neighbors arguing, babies crying, and the constant hum of too many people living too close together. But it is home, and in that home, her mother works with the kind of relentless determination that Mira will later inherit. By the time Mira is 8 years old in 1998, she already understands the math of their lives. Her mother works 3 jobs. In the mornings, she does laundry for wealthier families in the next district, scrubbing clothes by hand until her knuckles crack and bleed. In the afternoons, she sells snacks on the street corner, standing under the brutal Manila sun with a basket of boiled peanuts and fried bananas. At night, she works the graveyard shift at a garment factory, sewing labels onto shirts that will be shipped overseas and sold for more than she earns in a month. Mira's father works construction when he can find it, hauling cement bags and rebar in the heat. Some months, the work is steady. Other months, it disappears entirely. The pivotal moment that brands her comes in 2004, when Mira is 14. Her father collapses on a job site in the middle of June. Heat exhaustion, the doctors say at first. Then they run tests and find something worse. A heart condition. Treatable, they tell the family, but expensive. The hospital bill arrives like a sentencing. 80,000 pesos. For a family that counts every 10 peso coin, it might as well be 8 million. Mira watches her mother cry for the first time that night, sitting on the edge of the bed with the bill in her hands, her shoulders shaking in a way that terrifies Mira more than any threat ever could. That is the night Mira makes a silent vow, standing in the doorway of her parents' room, watching her mother break. "I will never let this happen again. I will never be this helpless." From that point forward, every choice Mira makes is a calculation. She stays in school because education is the only ladder out of poverty that does not require connections or luck. She studies by candlelight when the power is cut. She memorizes textbooks borrowed from classmates because her family cannot afford new ones. And when she is 18 in 2008, she applies to nursing school. Not because she dreams of wearing scrubs or saving lives, but because she has done the math. Nurses can work abroad. Nurses can send money home. Nurses can rewrite the story of their families. The 4 years between 2008 and 2012 are a blur of exhaustion and discipline. She works the night shift at a 24-hour convenience store, standing under fluorescent lights that buzz and flicker, scanning items for customers who barely see her. Between customers, she studies. Anatomy textbooks spread across the counter. Diagrams of bones and muscles memorized in the dead hours between 2 and 5 in the morning when the store is empty and the city outside is finally, briefly quiet. She learns the names of every bone in the human body while selling cigarettes and instant noodles to strangers. She learns pharmacology while restocking shelves. She learns that the human body can function on 4 hours of sleep if you push it hard enough, though it will punish you for it later. She graduates in 2012 with honors and debt. The honors mean nothing in a job market flooded with nursing graduates. The debt means everything. 180,000 pesos. More than her family earns in 2 years. The interest starts accruing immediately, a quiet countdown that ticks louder every month. She finds work at a public hospital in Manila, but the salary is a joke. 18,000 pesos a month. After rent, after food, after sending money home to help her parents, she has almost nothing left. The debt does not shrink. It grows. In January of 2013, Mira meets Antonio Cruz at a cousin's wedding. He is 28, 5 years older than her, with steady work as a cargo ship mechanic. He has gone 9 months out of the year, sailing routes between Asia and the Middle East, sending money back to his own family. When he is home, he is gentle and uncomplicated. He does not ask too many questions. He does not demand too much attention. He is, in every sense, the safe choice. They marry in October of 2013 in a small ceremony with 40 guests and a borrowed wedding dress. By December, she is pregnant. Their first child, a daughter named Sophia, is born in July of 2014. Mira holds her in the hospital and feels two things at once: overwhelming love and crushing fear. Love because this tiny human is perfect and warm and hers. Fear because she knows exactly how much it costs to raise a child in a country where medical care, education, and safety all come with price tags her salary cannot cover. Their second child, a son named Miguel, arrives in March of 2016. By then, Antonio is back at sea, his ship somewhere in the Indian Ocean, and Mira is alone with 2 small children and a mother whose health is starting to fail. The breaking point comes in September of 2016. Her mother needs surgery, another hospital bill, another impossible number: 150,000 pesos. Antonio's ship company delays his salary for 3 months due to some administrative issue no one can explain. Mira sits at the kitchen table with a calculator, adding and subtracting, trying to make the numbers work. They do not work. They will never work. That is when the realization lands, cold and clear. Antonio is a good man. He works hard. He sends money when he can. But good men do not pay for the life she needs to give her children. Good men do not clear debts or buy security. She needs something more. In October of 2016, Mira starts scrolling through social media, looking at the posts of other nurses who left Manila for the Gulf. The photos are always the same: smiling women in front of glass towers, captions about new opportunities and better lives. The math is simple. A nurse in Manila earns 18,000 pesos a month. A nurse in Dubai earns 45,000. The difference is not just money. It is a future. By December, she has an offer from Al Noor Grand Medical Center in Dubai. Antonio does not want her to go. He talks about the children, about waiting until they are older, about finding another way. But Mira has already made the decision. She frames it as temporary. 2 years, she tells him. Just long enough to clear the debts and set up a future. He believes her because he wants to. She believes herself because she has to. She tells herself it is just 2 years, just long enough to breathe. She has no idea that in Dubai, someone will offer her a shortcut she cannot refuse. While Mira is counting pesos in Manila, planning her escape to a better life, another story is unfolding in Dubai. Sheikh Tamim al-Rashid is born in 1975 into a world Mira will never fully understand. A world where money is not something you chase but something that simply exists, like air or sunlight. He is fourth-tier royalty, which means he is wealthy beyond measure but not important enough to carry the weight of a nation. He grows up in a palace where servants outnumber family members 8 to 1, where his childhood tantrums are met with immediate indulgence, and where the word no is something other people hear, not him. His father is a man of the old generation, built from rules and reputation. When Tamim is 12 years old in 1987, his father takes him aside after a family gathering and delivers a lesson that will sit in Tamim's chest for the rest of his life. A man's reputation is built on 2 things, his father says: voice steady and certain. His business dealings and the purity of his household. Lose either one, and you lose everything. Tamim nods, too young to fully grasp the weight of those words, but old enough to feel their gravity. By the time Tamim reaches adulthood, his life has followed a predictable path. At 23 in 1998, he enters an arranged marriage to a cousin, a union designed to strengthen family ties and maintain bloodlines. The marriage is polite, formal, and ultimately hollow. They share a home but not a life. She performs her duties as a wife in public. He performs his duties as a husband in name. In private, they are strangers. The marriage ends in divorce in 2003 after 5 years of cold politeness. There are no children, a fact that is whispered about in family circles but never spoken aloud in his presence. Some say it is his fault. He never confirms or denies. He simply moves on. From 2003 onward, Tamim becomes a man defined by what he wants but cannot seem to find. His mother, ever the traditionalist, begins bringing potential brides to family dinners. Women from respectable families, educated, beautiful, appropriate in every measurable way. He rejects them all. Too traditional, he says of one. Too modern, he says of another. The truth, which he does not say aloud, is that none of them make him feel what he is searching for. He wants someone grateful, someone pure, someone who will look at him and see a savior rather than an obligation. There is a pattern in his romantic history, though he does not see it as a pattern. In 2014, he becomes infatuated with a British teacher working at an international school in Dubai. She is young, blonde, polite, and completely uninterested in his advances. He showers her with gifts, jewelry she does not wear, invitations to dinners she politely declines. When she makes it clear she is not interested, he uses his connections to have her work visa quietly revoked. She leaves the country within 2 weeks. He tells himself it was for the best. She was too independent anyway. Western women always are. What Tamim wants, though he would never articulate it this way, is control disguised as devotion. He wants a woman who needs him, who will be grateful for his attention, who will never question his authority or wound his pride. Local women know too much about his family, about his failed marriage, about the whispers. Western women are too confident, too willing to walk away. What he needs, he decides, is someone in between. Someone from a modest background who understands gratitude. Someone who will see his wealth as salvation rather than expectation. In early 2017, Tamim develops a minor chronic health condition. Controlled diabetes, nothing serious, but it requires regular monitoring and monthly checkups. He refuses to see male doctors, a preference rooted more in comfort than necessity. He begins visiting the private wing of Al Noor Grand Medical Center, a 12-story glass building where the 11th floor is reserved for patients who pay extra for privacy, for rooms that look more like hotel suites than hospital wards, for staff trained to be competent and invisible. He is used to being treated like royalty even in medical settings. The nurses bow slightly when they enter. They speak in soft voices. They do not make eye contact unless he initiates it. It is a carefully choreographed dance of deference, one he has known his entire life. He does not yet know that on one of these routine visits, a nurse will walk into his room and change the trajectory of both their lives. He does not know that he is about to meet someone who will play the role of the grateful, modest, pure woman he has been searching for. And he will never realize, until it is too late, that she is performing just as carefully as everyone else around him. He is looking for a woman who will be grateful enough to be loyal. He has no idea that gratitude runs out the moment the checks stop clearing. Mira lands in Dubai on January 15, 2017, at 11:35 p.m., stepping off the plane into a world that does not look real. The airport terminal is trimmed in gold, the floors so polished she can see her reflection, the air cool and artificially perfect. Outside, the temperature sits at 18 degrees Celsius, a relief after Manila's relentless heat. She takes a bus to the staff housing arranged by the hospital, a shared apartment 40 minutes from the city center. For nurses to one unit, 2 Indians, 1 Kenyan, all with the same story. Loans back home, families depending on them, dreams measured in remittances. Her first shift at Al Noor Grand Medical Center begins on January 21, 2017. The hospital is 12 stories of glass and marble, with a lobby that looks more like a luxury hotel than a place where people come to heal. She is assigned to the 8th floor, cardiology and internal medicine, working the night shift from 8 p.m. until 6 a.m. The hierarchy is immediate and unspoken. Emirati patients are treated with deference. Western expats are treated with efficiency. Asian staff are treated as functionally invisible, praised when competent, reprimanded when too visible. By March of 2017, Mira has settled into the exhausting rhythm of her new life. Work 6 nights a week, sleep during the bright Dubai afternoons in a room she shares with a rotating cast of nurses on opposite schedules, send money home every month, video call her children every Sunday at 3 p.m. Dubai time when they are waking up in Manila. Sophia, now 2.5, presses her face to the screen and asks when mommy is coming home. Miguel, barely 1, does not recognize her anymore. Antonio is somewhere in the South China Sea, his ship hauling cargo between ports, his messages sporadic and brief. The math still works, but the loneliness is heavier than she expected. On April 12, 2017, at 8:45 p.m., Mira is pulled from her regular rotation. The head nurse, a Filipina woman who has been in Dubai for 15 years and has seen everything, approaches her during the shift handoff. VIP. Patient on the 11th floor needs overnight monitoring, she says, her tone making it clear this is not a request. You're professional. You follow instructions. You're going. Mira nods, collects her equipment, and takes the elevator to a floor she has never worked before. The 11th floor is a different universe. The hallways are carpeted, the walls hung with original art, the patient suites equipped with sitting rooms and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Her patient is listed on the chart as T. Al-Rashid, 42, male, admitted for diabetes management and what the notes vaguely describe as executive stress assessment. When she enters the suite at 9:15 p.m., she finds a man in a traditional white kandura, reclining on a bed that looks more like hotel furniture than medical equipment. He is reading financial reports on an iPad, barely glancing up when she introduces herself. Her job is simple: check his vitals every 2 hours. Ensure the drip is flowing properly. Be available but unobtrusive. At 9:15 p.m., he ignores her entirely. At 11 p.m., he looks up from his screen and asks her name. Mira, sir, she says. From Manila. He nods once and returns to his reports. At 1 a.m., he is awake, unable to sleep despite the medication. He asks if she likes Dubai. She gives the safe answer, the one she has been trained to give. It's very beautiful, sir. I'm grateful for the opportunity to work here. He studies her face for a long moment, longer than feels comfortable, and then asks a question that makes her pause. Are you married? She hesitates. The truth is yes, she is married. She has 2 children. She has a husband at sea. But something in his tone, something in the way he is watching her, tells her that the truth is not what he wants to hear. So she lies. No, sir. It is instinct more than strategy. Professionalism more than calculation. The same reason she has been trained to lower her gaze, to soften her voice, to become invisible when needed. He smiles slightly, the kind of smile that does not reach his eyes but suggests satisfaction. Good, he says. Then he dismisses her with a wave of his hand. When her shift ends at 6 a.m., she completes the final vitals check and prepares to leave. As she reaches the door, he stops her. You're very good at your job, he says. Professional. She thanks him and exits, her hands shaking slightly in the elevator. She knows, without knowing how she knows, that the interaction meant something. She just does not know what yet. Over the next 2 weeks, a pattern emerges. On April 15th, he requests her specifically for his follow-up appointment. On April 22nd, again. On April 29th, again. Her supervisor pulls her aside in late April with a knowing look. Whatever you're doing, she says, keep doing it. VIP patients who are happy make everyone's life easier. Mira nods, tells herself it is just good customer service, and tries not to think about the fact that she noticed his watch during one of those overnight shifts. It was a Patek Philippe, rose gold, with a leather strap. She looked up the model later out of curiosity. It cost more than she would earn in 5 years. By May of 2017, Tamim is no longer just a patient. He is a presence. He begins showing up at the hospital for minor complaints that do not require an overnight stay. Headaches, fatigue, vague discomfort that necessitates monitoring. Each time he requests Mira. The other nurses notice. They whisper in the break room, half joking, half warning. Be careful, her Indian roommate says one night. Men like that don't just want nurses. On May 20th, 2017, at the end of a long shift, Tamim hands Mira an envelope. Inside is 5,000 dirhams in cash, crisp bills that smell faintly of cologne. For your excellent care, he says. She tries to refuse, citing hospital policy. He insists. It's not from a patient, he says. It's from someone who appreciates quality. She takes it. That is 4 months of what she sends home. That night, she lies in bed staring at the envelope, knowing she has crossed a line but unable to see a way back. Through June of 2017, the conversations deepen. He starts asking personal questions during the quiet hours of his overnight stays. Where did she study? Does she have siblings? What does she want for her future? She answers honestly about everything except the most important things. She does not mention Antonio. She does not mention Sofia and Miguel. She tells him about her family, about her mother's health, about wanting to provide security for the people she loves. He listens with the kind of focus that makes her feel seen in a way she has not felt in years. On June 8th, at 2:30 in the morning, he tells her about his failed marriage, his loneliness, his desire for a partner who understands gratitude. She nods sympathetically, playing the role of compassionate listener, not yet understanding that she is auditioning for something far more permanent. On July 10th, he asks her to dinner. She declines. "I don't think that's appropriate, sir." He respects the boundary, but the offers do not stop. On July 15th, flowers arrive at the nurse's station with her name on the card. The other nurses tease her mercilessly. On July 22nd, he offers to help her family financially if she ever needs it. She deflects but does not refuse outright. On July 28th, he drops the pretense entirely. "I would like to know you outside of this hospital," he says. It is not a question. It is a statement of intent. On July 25th, Mira has a video call with Antonio. His ship is docked in Singapore for a 2-week maintenance period. He looks tired, older than she remembers. Sofia asks when mommy is coming home. Miguel does not recognize her at all, turning his face away from the screen. Antonio's contract has been extended another 6 months. The company needs him on a new route. Mira listens and feels the future she imagined slipping further away. That night, her mother calls. The surgery went well, but the hospital is demanding payment for the remaining balance. 80,000 pesos. Can Mira send extra this month? Mira sits on the edge of her narrow bed in the shared apartment and does the calculation that will define everything. Her current plan means working in Dubai for 2 years, sending home as much as she can, and returning to Manila with some savings and a mountain of exhaustion. Tamim's help means something else entirely. It means risk. It means deception. But it also means her mother's debts disappear. It means Sofia goes to a good school. It means Miguel has a future that does not look like hers. On August 5th, 2017, she agrees to have coffee with Tamim. They meet at a high-end cafe in Dubai Mall, neutral ground, public, safe. He arrives in a casual kandura. She wears a modest dress and borrows a hijab from her Muslim roommate, a gesture of respect she hopes he will notice. He does. They talk for 2 hours. He speaks about his business, about real estate and import deals she barely understands. She speaks carefully about her family back home, about the children she helps support, phrasing it vaguely enough that he assumes she means nieces and nephews. When he asks if she has ever been married, she lies again. "No. In my culture, we focus on family first, marriage later." He finds this answer perfect. At the end of the coffee, he takes her hand briefly. "You're different from anyone I've met," he says. She smiles and does not correct him. The acceleration is dizzying. On August 8th, a second date. On August 12th, 10,000 dirhams appears in her account with a note, "To help your family." On August 15th, a yacht trip during the day, his driver present to maintain propriety. On August 20th, he tells her he is falling in love with her purity and grace. By August 25th, Mira knows what is coming. He is going to propose, and she is going to say yes. If you're already feeling the weight of Mira's double life, the family in Manila she's trying to support, the exhaustion in Dubai she's trying to survive, then you understand why what happens next feels both inevitable and tragic. Subscribe to follow stories where we don't just show you the crime, we show you the pressure that built up to it. On September 10th, 2017, at a private beach resort 90 minutes outside Dubai, Sheikh Tamim al-Rashid gets on one knee in front of a woman he believes is everything he has been searching for. The sunset is perfect, the cabana is decorated with roses, and the 3-carat diamond ring catches the light in a way that makes Mira's breath stop. Not from joy, though that is what her tears suggest. The tears are real, but they come from a more complicated place. Guilt, fear, relief, the crushing weight of knowing that when she says yes, she is committing to a lie so large it could swallow her whole. "Mira," he says, his voice steady with the confidence of a man who has never been refused anything that mattered. "You are everything I've been searching for. Pure, devoted, understanding. I want to give you a life of comfort. I want to build a family with you. Will you marry me?" She says yes because by this point, There is no other answer that makes sense. The ring slides onto her finger, heavy and foreign, a golden lock disguised as a gift. The conditions come quickly. On September 11th, in his office overlooking the city, Tamim lays out his expectations with the precision of a man negotiating a business contract. She will leave her job at the hospital. He will support her fully. She will live in a villa he will provide. She will dress modestly in public and represent him well. She will eventually convert to Islam, though he phrases it as a gentle suggestion rather than a demand. And most importantly, she will cut ties with distractions from her past. "I'm giving you a new life, Mira," he says, leaning back in his leather chair. "A clean slate. You don't need to work anymore. You don't need to struggle. All I ask is loyalty." She agrees to everything because what choice does she have? The door she walked through when she accepted his first envelope of cash does not open from the inside. What Tamim does not know is that while he is planning their future, Mira is planning something else entirely. On September 12th, she video calls Antonio, her heart hammering so hard she can feel it in her throat. She tells him the hospital is extending her contract for 2 more years. She says the pay is too good to refuse, that she will send more money but visits home will be less frequent. Antonio is disappointed but not suspicious. He is on a ship in the Arabian Sea, exhausted from 16-hour shifts in the engine room, and the promise of more money eases the sting of her absence. She does not tell him about Tamim. She does not tell him about the ring that is already burning a hole in her conscience. On September 14th, she calls her mother and says she got a promotion. Her mother cries with gratitude and promises to pay off all their debts. Mira hangs up and sits in the bathroom of her shared apartment, staring at her reflection, wondering at what point she stopped recognizing the woman looking back. On September 18th, Mira opens a second bank account at Standard Chartered in Dubai, an account in her name only, and begins planning how to route Tamim's money to Manila without raising questions. On September 20th, she tells her roommates she is leaving the hospital for family reasons. Sarah, the Kenyan nurse who has become her closest friend, pulls her aside in the hallway. "Are you marrying him?" she asks. Mira does not answer directly. "It's complicated," she says. Sarah's face hardens with concern. "What about your husband?" Myra's voice drops to a whisper. "What he doesn't know won't hurt him." Sarah shakes her head slowly. "What you don't know might kill you." Mira dismisses the warning because she has already made her choice, and turning back now would mean losing everything. The wedding is small, carefully controlled, and happens faster than Mira expected. On October 15th, 2017, she stands in front of an imam at Tamim's family estate, wearing a white gown with a hijab, speaking vows in a language she barely understands. Tamim's mother watches with cold politeness, a woman who wanted her son to marry within their circle and is now forced to accept an outsider. His brothers attend out of obligation, their faces blank with indifference. There are 20 guests total. Mira has no one. She tells Tamim her family cannot afford to travel, which is true, but also convenient. The ceremony lasts 40 minutes. The imam pronounces them husband and wife. Tamim kisses her forehead. And just like that, Mira Ramos becomes someone else entirely. The villa he provides is in Al Zahra Gardens, a gated community where the houses are separated by high walls and manicured lawns. For bedrooms, a private pool, marble everywhere. A housekeeper comes 3 times a week. A driver is on call whenever she needs to go anywhere, though Tamim makes it clear she should not need to go anywhere often. Her days develop a suffocating routine. She wakes at 7 to prepare his breakfast. He leaves for his office at 8:30. From 9 until 3 in the afternoon, the villa is hers, but the freedom is an illusion. She has no job, no friends, no purpose beyond waiting for him to return at 4. They have dinner together at 7. He retreats to his study at 10. She sits alone in the sitting room, scrolling through her phone, which he now checks randomly, without warning, without apology. Managing her connection to Manila becomes a high-wire act. She communicates with Antonio through an encrypted messaging app, Signal, which she keeps hidden in a folder labeled Health Apps. She tells him she is now working as a private nurse for a wealthy family, which explains the irregular hours and limited video calls. Antonio accepts it because he is at sea 9 months of the year and has his own exhaustion to manage. Every Sunday at 2 p.m. Dubai time, she video calls Sophia and Miguel. Sophia, now 3.5, asks when mommy is coming home with the persistence of a child who does not understand time zones or contracts or lies. Miguel, barely 2, stares at the screen with confused eyes, not quite sure who this woman is. Mira sends 20,000 dirhams a month to her mother's account in Manila. Her mother asks no questions, just expresses gratitude that borders on worship. Antonio thinks the money is from Mira's private nursing job. By December of 2017, all the family debts are paid. By March of 2018, her mother has bought a small house. By June, Sofia is enrolled in private school, and Miguel has a full-time nanny. But the money comes with a price that reveals itself slowly, like a stain spreading across fabric. In January of 2018, Tamim begins checking her phone during dinner, casually scrolling through her messages while she sits across from him, her stomach twisting into knots. She is prepared. Antonio is saved in her contacts as 8 Rosa, a fake older sister. Photos of her children are stored in an encrypted folder that looks like a meditation. In February, he hires a driver to accompany her anywhere she goes, framing it as concern for her safety, though they both know it is surveillance. In March, he suggests she convert to Islam officially. She delays, saying she wants to study the faith properly, do it with the right intention. He accepts her answer but grows impatient. In April, he begins talking about children, about wanting a son and heir. She deflects, saying they should wait until they are more settled. Privately, she takes birth control pills, hidden inside a vitamin bottle, swallowing her deception every morning with a glass of water. By May of 2018, Tamim's possessiveness has calcified into something darker. He forbids her from working or volunteering. "Your job is to be my wife," he says, and the statement is not romantic. It is a cage. In June, he reminds her of the prenuptial agreement she signed, the clause that states if she is ever unfaithful, if she ever betrays him, she will leave with nothing. The way he says it is not casual. It is a warning. Mira sits in the villa's sitting room after he goes to his study, staring at the pool outside, and realizes she is trapped. She cannot leave without losing everything. She cannot stay without losing herself. On June 15th, during a video call with Sofia, her daughter asks the question that breaks her. "Mommy, when are you coming home?" Mira promises soon, hangs up, and cries in the bathroom for 20 minutes. Then she dries her face, reapplies her makeup, and goes to greet Tamim with the smile he expects. The cracks begin to show in July of 2018 when Antonio docks in Manila for a 2-week leave. He visits the new house Mira's money bought, sees the private school uniforms, the new appliances, the comfortable furniture. He does the math and it does not add up. Even a well-paid private nursing job should not generate this much money. He asks Mira's mother how much Mira is sending. 20,000 dirhams a month, she says proudly. Antonio converts the number in his head. Over $5,000 a month, 65,000 a year. He texts Mira immediately. "We need to talk about your job." She calls him back within minutes, her voice carefully controlled. She explains that the family she works for is extremely wealthy, that they pay well because she is on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. "That seems like a lot," Antonio says, doubt creeping into his voice. "Would you rather I earned less?" she counters. He backs down because he does not want to fight, because he wants to believe her, because the money is helping their children in ways his ship salary never could. But the doubt does not leave. It sits in his chest, quiet and growing. In September of 2018, Mira has her closest call. Tamim comes home early, at 3 in the afternoon instead of 4, and finds her on a video call with Antonio in the bedroom. She hears the front door and her blood turns to ice. She hangs up immediately, tells Antonio there is a patient emergency, and deletes the call history with shaking hands. When she walks out to greet Tamim, he notices something is wrong. "You look flushed," he says. "Are you feeling well?" She blames a headache. He accepts it, but she sees the suspicion in his eyes. That night, lying beside him in bed, she realizes how close she came to losing everything. One mistake, one unlocked door, 1 second of bad timing. That is all it would take. By December of 2018, the control has tightened into something unbearable. Tamim insists she get a new phone, claiming her current one is outdated. She knows he wants to control what is on it. She transfers all evidence of Antonio and the children to her old phone and hides it in a box of tampons in the bathroom, betting correctly that Tamim will never look there. In November, he suggests they travel to London together. She panics at the idea of leaving Dubai, of being even further from her ability to maintain contact with Manila. She fakes an illness severe enough to cancel the trip. He is annoyed but relents. In December, his sexual demands increase, and compliance becomes another job she performs. One night after he finishes, he tells her, "You're mine, only mine." She smiles and nods while inside she is screaming. On December 31st, 2018, Mira reviews her situation with the cold clarity of someone who has run out of options. She has been married to Tamim for 14 months. She has sent 280,000 dirhams to Manila, over $76,000. The prenuptial agreement states she gets the villa transferred to her name after 2 years of marriage. She is 6 months away from that milestone. Her plan is simple: make it to October 2019, then find a way out. But she is exhausted. Maintaining 2 lives is destroying her. She is forgetting details she told Antonio, becoming distant with Tamim, making small mistakes that could become fatal. She tells herself she just needs 6 more months. What could go wrong in 6 months? She does not know yet that the answer is everything. On April 1st, 2019, Sheikh Tamim al-Rashid makes a decision that will unravel everything. He sits in his office at the headquarters of al-Rashid Properties, staring at his wife's most recent credit card statement, and feels the familiar itch of suspicion he has been trying to ignore for months. Mira has become distant. She flinches when he touches her unexpectedly. She keeps her phone face down on tables. She smiles at him with a practiced expression that does not reach her eyes. So he calls Rashid Khan, a former police investigator who now runs a private firm specializing in corporate security and, when the price is right, personal matters that require discretion. "I want to know everything about my wife," Tamim says. "Where she goes, who she talks to, what she's hiding." Rashid quotes a price that would make most people blink. Tamim does not blink. "You have 30 days, he says. The surveillance begins on April 2nd, 2019. For the first week, Rashid follows Mira's daily routine and discovers a woman who barely exists outside her villa. She goes to the market once a week with the driver. She visits a salon every 2 weeks. She has no friends, no social circle, no life beyond the walls of her gated community. But on day 5, Rashid notices something. She carries 2 phones. One she uses openly. One she keeps hidden, pulling it out only when she is alone. On April 9th, Rashid deploys spyware, a program that remotely accesses the hidden phone and begins downloading its contents. What he finds is a woman living 2 entirely separate lives. By April 15th, Rashid has cracked the encrypted messaging apps. He reads conversations between Mira and someone saved as 8 Rosa that are clearly not conversations with a sister. The messages reference children, money transfers, and a man at sea. On April 22nd, he traces her monthly bank transfers and discovers she is sending 20,000 dirhams a month to a Maria Ramos in Manila. He cross-references the name and finds property records, utility bills, school enrollment forms. Maria Ramos lives with 2 children in a house recently purchased with cash. On April 25th, Rashid flies to Manila. The local investigator he hires is efficient and thorough. On April 26th, he locates Maria Ramos' house in a quiet neighborhood where modest homes sit behind low walls and stray dogs sleep in the afternoon heat. On April 27th, he begins surveillance. Through the windows, he sees an older woman caring for 2 children, a girl, around 4 years old, and a boy around 3. On the walls inside, visible when the light is right, are family photographs. In those photographs, he sees Mira, a man, and the 2 children, smiling, together, family. On April 28th, the investigator approaches a neighbor, an elderly woman sweeping her front step. "That's Maria's daughter Mira," the neighbor says when shown a photograph. "She works abroad, sends money home. Her husband Antonio is a seaman, gone most of the time. 2 beautiful children." The investigator thanks her, takes notes, and photographs everything. On April 30th, 2019, Rashid delivers his report to Tamim. The file is thick, organized, damning. Mira Ramos married Antonio Cruz on October 12, 2013, in a ceremony registered with the Philippine government. They have 2 children, Sofia born July 2014 and Miguel born March 2016. Antonio Cruz works for Pacific Maritime Services as a marine engineer, currently assigned to a cargo vessel traveling between Southeast Asia and the Middle East. Mira has been sending money to her mother, who cares for the children while both parents work abroad. The marriage to Tamim, conducted on October 15, 2017, is bigamous under both Philippine and UAE law. Attached to the report are copies of the marriage certificate, the children's birth certificates, photographs of the family, and screenshots of messages between Mira and Antonio discussing their children, their finances, their future. Tamim reads the report twice. The first time, the words do not fully land. The second time, they detonate. He sits alone in his office for 2 hours, the city sprawling below him through floor-to-ceiling windows, and feels something inside him crack. Not his heart, his pride. The realization that he, Sheikh Tamim al-Rashid, a man who has never been made a fool, has been played by a nurse from Manila, a woman he rescued from poverty, elevated to luxury, and trusted with his name. The humiliation is physical. His hands shake. His jaw clenches so tight his teeth ache. He thinks about his mother's questions about children, his brother's barely concealed doubt about his choice of wife, the business partners who attended the wedding as a courtesy. If this gets out, if anyone discovers he married a woman who was already married, who has children she hid from him, who has been lying to his face every single day for nearly 2 years, his reputation will be destroyed. On May 1, 2019, at 8 o'clock in the evening, Tamim calls Mira into his office at the villa. The room is wood-paneled and cold, designed for business, not comfort. On the desk, spread out like evidence at a trial, are the photographs. Mira in a wedding dress, standing next to a man who is not Tamim. Mira holding a baby. Mira with 2 small children, smiling at the camera with an ease she has never shown in this house. "Sit down," Tamim says, and his voice is so calm it terrifies her more than shouting ever could. She sits. She sees the photos and her body goes numb. "Is this you?" he asks, pointing to the wedding photo. She cannot speak. "Are these your children?" Still, she cannot find words. "Answer me," he says, and the calm shatters. "Yes," she whispers. The word is barely audible, but it confirms everything. "You're married," he says, and it is not a question. "I was," she tries. "It's complicated." He laughs, a sound with no humor in it. "You're still married. You lied to me. You forged documents. You committed fraud." She tries to explain, her voice shaking. "I needed to survive. My family was drowning. I had no choice." He slams his hand on the desk and she flinches. "So you used me. You saw a rich man and you decided to take everything you could." She wants to deny it, but the evidence is spread in front of them, and there is no lie left that will hold. "Why?" he asks, and for the first time his voice cracks. "I gave you everything. Everything. A home, money, status, security. Why wasn't it enough?" Mira tries to explain about the debts, about Sofia and Miguel, about Antonio being gone and her mother being sick and the hospital bills that never stopped. She tells him she respected him, that she was grateful, that none of it was meant to hurt him. What she does not say, because she cannot, is that she never loved him, that every smile was performance, that every night beside him felt like imprisonment, that she was always planning to leave once she secured the villa and the divorce settlement. Tamim hears what she does say and knows what she does not. "Did you ever care about me at all?" he asks. "I respected you," she says carefully. "I was grateful." It is the wrong answer. "But you didn't love me," he says. She says nothing. The silence confirms everything. Tamim does not sleep that night. He paces his study, drinks whiskey he rarely touches, and by morning has made a decision. On May 2nd, he presents Mira with an ultimatum. Option 1. She divorces Antonio immediately through a legal process Tamim's lawyers will arrange via proxy in the Philippines. She severs all ties with her children, signing over custody to Antonio and her mother. She stays with Tamim for 5 more years, not the 2 originally agreed upon. After 5 years, she can leave with a financial settlement. Option 2. She leaves immediately, receives nothing, faces deportation, and Tamim presses charges for fraud, bigamy, and forgery of official documents. "You have 48 hours, he tells her. Mira locks herself in the guest room and realizes she is staring at 2 futures, both of which destroy her. Keep financial security, lose her children forever. Or return to Manila, lose everything, face Antonio's rage and possible imprisonment for bigamy. On May 4th, she calls her mother on an encrypted line. "Mama, I'm in trouble," she says, and her voice breaks. Her mother asks what happened. Mira cannot explain over the phone, cannot find words for the web she has woven. "Just know that I did everything for you and the kids," she says. Her mother tells her to come home, that they will figure it out together. "It's not that simple," Mira whispers, but in her mind, a different plan is forming. On May 5th, she makes a decision. She chooses neither option. Instead, she will escape. She will withdraw the money she has saved in her secret account, 45,000 dirhams accumulated over months of careful skimming. She will book a flight to Manila for May 8th. She will leave the villa while Tamim is at work and never look back. On May 6th, she withdraws the cash in increments from different ATMs across the city, the driver waiting in the car, unaware of what she is doing. On May 7th, she packs a small bag and hides it under the bed. She tells Tamim she needs time to think, that she wants to stay with a friend for a few days. His response is cold. "Fine, but if you run, I will find you, and I will make sure you face consequences." On May 8th, at 6:30 in the morning, after Tamim leaves for work, Mira calls a taxi. She is reaching for the door handle when the doorbell rings. She opens it to find Tamim's driver and 2 security men. "Sheikh Tamim asked us to escort you wherever you're going," the driver says. She realizes in that moment that she is not a wife. She is a prisoner. When Tamim returns that evening and sees her packed bag, which security has already reported, the rage that has been building for a week finally explodes. "You were going to run," he says. "I need to see my children," she pleads. "You should have thought about that before you lied to me." On May 9th, Tamim's lawyer arrives. With a new contract, new terms. Mira will divorce Antonio, surrender her children, stay with Tamim for 5 years minimum, and if she refuses, he will press criminal charges that could land her in a UE prison before she ever sees Manila again. Mira reads the contract and says what she is thinking before she can stop herself. "This is slavery." The lawyer's response is delivered without emotion. "This is consequence." She signs because she has no choice. But that night, alone in the guest room where Tamim has made her sleep as punishment, she sends Antonio an encrypted message. "I love you. I love the kids. I'm sorry for everything. If something happens to me, know that I tried." Antonio, on a ship somewhere in the Pacific, reads the message and feels ice flood his veins. "What are you talking about? Are you okay?" Mira does not respond. She is already planning her next move, because she understands now that this is no longer about money or security. This is about survival. And if she cannot escape legally, she will have to find another way. Between May 10th and July 15th, 2019, Mira Ramos plays the role of her life. She becomes the compliant wife Tamim has always wanted, apologizing with downcast eyes, attending family gatherings in modest clothing, speaking softly when spoken to, and moving through the villa like a ghost who has learned that silence is survival. She stops all direct contact with Antonio, knowing Tamim monitors her phone constantly now, the device no longer hers, but a leash he checks whenever suspicion flickers across his face. But compliance is a mask, and beneath it Mira is planning. She has learned something crucial about powerful men during her time in this golden cage. They believe their own control so completely that they stop watching as carefully once they think they have one. In early June, Mira discovers something that changes everything. Tamim keeps a safe in his study, a heavy black box built into the wall behind a painting of desert dunes at sunset. She has seen him open it exactly 3 times, always when he thinks she is occupied elsewhere in the villa. The first time, she is walking past the study and sees through the partially open door as he spins the dial. She does not have the full combination, but she watches his hand movements, counts the rotations, notes the direction. Right twice, left once, right again. The second time, she manufactures a reason to bring him coffee while he is working, arriving just as he is closing the safe. She sees the cash inside, thick stacks of bills in multiple currencies. The third time, on June 18th, she watches from the hallway, hidden behind the edge of the doorframe, and memorizes the exact sequence. 4 to the right, stopping at 18. 2 full rotations left, stopping at 33. 1 rotation right, stopping at 9. On June 15th, Mira reconnects with Sarah, her former roommate from the hospital, the Kenyan nurse who warned her months ago that what she did not know might kill her. They meet at Dubai Mall, in the crowded food court where conversations disappear into the noise of hundreds of other voices. Sarah's face lights up when she sees Mira, then falls when she looks closer. "You look different," Sarah says. Mira knows what she means. She has lost weight. There are shadows under her eyes that makeup cannot quite hide. Her smile is practiced and empty. "I need help," Mira says quietly, leaning across the table so her words do not carry. She explains, giving Sarah the edited version. Controlling husband, wants to leave, needs an escape route. She does not mention Antonio or the children or the lies that have constructed her entire life in Dubai. Sarah listens, and Mira can see the conflict on her face, the desire to help warring with the fear of consequences. "What do you need?" Sarah finally asks. "A place to hide for 2 days," Mira says, "and help getting to the airport." Sarah hesitates. "This sounds dangerous." Mira reaches across the table and takes her hand. "Please, you're the only person I trust." It is manipulation and it is truth at the same time. Sarah agrees. The plan Mira constructs over the next 3 weeks is meticulous. On July 1st, she tells Tamim she wants to make amends by cooking his favorite meal for his birthday on July 20th. He softens slightly at this, the first crack in the ice that has existed between them since the confrontation in May. On July 5th, she suggests they spend the weekend before his birthday at a luxury spa resort 2 hours outside Dubai. July 18th through 19, a chance to reconnect and move past the difficulties of recent months. Tamim agrees, interpreting her suggestion as submission, as evidence that she has finally accepted her place. On July 10th, she books the resort, confirming a couple's suite and a 3-hour spa treatment for him on the afternoon of July 18th. What Tamim does not know is that Mira has no intention of being there. Her real plan is surgical in its precision. On July 18th, while Tamim is at the resort spa, she will suggest he go ahead without her, claiming she wants to prepare a surprise for his return. The spa treatment is 3 hours long, from 2 p.m. until 5 p.m. In those 3 hours, she will access the safe using the combination she has memorized, take 100,000 dirhams in cash, enough to disappear but not so much that the theft is immediately obvious among the stacks inside. She will leave the villa with the emergency bag she has already packed and hidden in the back of her closet behind winter clothes she never wears in this desert city. Sarah will pick her up 2 blocks away at exactly 2:15 p.m. They will drive to Abu Dhabi, 90 minutes away, where Sarah's friend has agreed to let Mira stay for 2 days without asking questions. On July 21st, Mira will board a flight to Manila booked under her maiden name, a ticket purchased weeks ago using cash and a travel agency that does not ask for passport scans until check-in. Once in Manila, she will disappear into the vast sprawl of the city, reunite with her children, and deal with Antonio's inevitable rage and the legal consequences of her bigamous marriage. It is not a perfect plan, but it is the only one she has. On July 11th, she opens a new bank account in Manila online, using her mother's name and address, a place to eventually transfer what remains of the money after she establishes herself. On July 12th, she contacts Antonio through a new encrypted email account Tamim does not know exists. The message is brief and cryptic. "I'm coming home soon. Don't ask questions. Just trust me. Have divorce papers ready. I'll explain everything." Antonio responds within hours, his confusion evident even through text. "Okay, I'll be waiting." On July 13th, she calls her mother using a borrowed phone from Sarah, speaking quickly, her voice low. "I'm coming home July 21st. Don't tell anyone. Pick me up at the airport." Her mother asks what is happening. Mira cannot explain, cannot unpack 2 years of lies in a 3-minute phone call. "Just trust me, Mama. Please." On July 14th, she confirms everything with Sarah one final time. On July 15th, she allows herself to believe, for the first time in months, that escape might actually be possible. What Mira does not know is that Sarah is drowning in her own fear. On July 16th, sitting in her shared apartment after a long night shift, Sarah thinks about what helping Mira could cost her. If Tamim discovers she aided his wife's escape, he could have her deported. He could blacklist her from ever working in the Gulf again. He could destroy her career with a single phone call to the right people. Sarah tells herself she is doing this out of friendship, but the fear is louder than loyalty. At 10 o'clock in the morning on July 16th, Sarah makes a decision that will cost Mira her life. She calls Tamim's office. When his assistant asks who is calling, Sarah says she has important information about his wife. Tamim takes the call. I need to tell you something, Sarah says, her voice shaking. Mira asked me to help her escape. Tamim's voice, when he responds, is colder than Sarah has ever heard a human voice sound. When? He asks. Sarah tells him everything. July 18th. The plan to take money from his safe. The flight to Manila on July 21st. The hiding place in Abu Dhabi. When she finishes, there is a long silence on the line. Why are you telling me this? Tamim finally asks. Because I don't want to be involved, Sarah says. And because I think she's making a mistake. Tamim thanks her, his voice perfectly controlled, and hangs up. For 2 hours, he sits alone in his office, staring at the city below, feeling the rage build in his chest like pressure behind a dam. She was going to rob him, humiliate him again, make him look like a fool in front of his family, his business associates, everyone who already doubted his choice to marry a foreign nurse. By the time his assistant knocks to remind him of his afternoon meeting, Tamim has made a decision. Mira will not leave, ever. On July 17th, Tamim returns to the villa that evening acting completely normal. When Mira asks if he is excited about the resort trip tomorrow, he smiles and tells her it was a wonderful idea. She feels relief flood through her, interpreting his warmth as evidence that her performance of compliance has worked. That night, after she goes to bed, Tamim calls his security team and gives them instructions. Tomorrow, no one enters or leaves the villa without his explicit permission. If his wife attempts to leave, they are to stop her. Not hurt her, he emphasizes, just stop her. The security team nods and asks no questions. Tamim also calls the resort and cancels the spa appointment, claiming a work emergency. The last thing he does before sleeping is remove his wedding ring and set it on the nightstand, a gesture whose meaning he does not yet fully understand. On the morning of July 18, 2019, Tamim wakes Mira at 7 a.m. with news that destroys her plan before it can begin. I'm not feeling well, he tells her. Let's postpone the resort trip. Mira feels her stomach drop but keeps her face carefully neutral. Oh, she says. Okay, maybe next weekend. He nods vaguely. At 8 a.m., instead of leaving for work as he does every day, Tamim stays home. Mira's panic builds with each passing hour. At 10 o'clock in the morning, he asks her to sit with him in the living room. The room is bright with sunlight streaming through the windows, illuminating the expensive furniture and the fresh flowers the housekeeper arranged yesterday. It should feel peaceful. Instead, it feels like a trap. I know about your plan, Tamim says, and Mira's world ends. She tries to play dumb, asking what plan he means, but he cuts her off. Sarah told me everything. The name hits Mira like a physical blow. Her friend, the only person she trusted, the woman she begged for help, betrayed her. Tamim lays out everything he knows. The safe, the money, the flight to Manila, the hiding place in Abu Dhabi. As he speaks, Mira realizes there is no lie left that will save her, no performance that will work, no escape route that is not already closed. You were going to rob me, Tamim says, his voice tight with controlled fury. Run away. Abandon our marriage. After everything I did for you. Mira tries to explain about her children, about needing to see them, about the suffocation of living in this villa like a prisoner. I just want to go home, she says, and here's how pathetic it sounds even as the words leave her mouth. Tamim's response is simple and final. No. The rest of July 18th unfolds like a slow-motion car crash. Mira is not physically restrained, but security is stationed at every exit. She is trapped in the villa with a man whose rage is building by the hour. At 6 p.m., they sit across from each other at the dinner table, food neither of them touches cooling on expensive plates. Tamim drinks whiskey, which is unusual for him, each glass lowering his control a fraction. By 8 p.m. he is ranting, listing everything he gave her. The villa, the money, the status, the life she could never have afforded on her own. And you repay me by planning to steal from me? He says. Do you know what you are? A liar, a fraud, a whore. The last word makes Mira flinch. Don't call me that, she says quietly. That's what you are, he continues, his voice rising. You sold yourself to me while you had a husband and children. What else would you call it? By 10 p.m., Tamim is drunk and Mira is terrified. He demands her phone and when she hesitates, he grabs it from her hand, scrolling through with increasing fury. He finds the encrypted apps she thought she had hidden well enough. "What is this?" he asks, voice dangerously quiet. "Signal? Proton mail? Give me the passwords." She refuses. He grabs her wrist hard enough to bruise. "Give me the passwords." She tells him he is hurting her. His response chills her blood. "You hurt me first." He throws the phone against the wall where it shatters, pieces of glass and plastic scattering across the marble floor. Mira stands, trying to move toward the door. "I want to leave," she says. "Now." Tamim blocks her path. "You're not going anywhere." What happens next will later be reconstructed by investigators from evidence scattered across 2 rooms, from injuries catalogued in an autopsy report, from the timeline of sounds neighbors heard through walls built to ensure privacy. At 11:30 p.m., Mira tries to push past Tamim to reach the door. He grabs her shoulders. She slaps him, instinct and fear overriding thought. He freezes, shocked. "You hit me," he says, voice shaking. "No woman has ever hit me." She backs away, apologizing, begging to just be allowed to leave. "You should be scared," he tells her, advancing. She runs toward the bedroom. He follows. In the bedroom, the struggle intensifies. She tries to lock the door, but he forces it open. She is crying now, begging him to please not hurt her, promising she will stay. She will do whatever he wants. She will never try to leave again. "It's too late for that," he says, and his voice has gone cold in a way that is worse than the anger. The medical examiner will later note that Mira's death occurred between 2 and 3 a.m. on July 19, 2019. The cause is asphyxiation due to manual strangulation. The evidence suggests the assault was prolonged, not momentary. There are defensive wounds on her forearms where she tried to protect herself. There are bruises on her shoulders from being grabbed. The pattern of injuries tells a story of a woman who fought for her life and a man who did not stop even when he could have, even when her struggles weakened, even when she stopped moving. At 3 a.m., Mira is dead and Tamim is sitting on the floor beside her body, staring at his hands. He does not call for help. He does not cry. He simply sits in the silence of what he has done. At 4 a.m., he finally moves, washing his hands in the bathroom sink, watching the water run clear. He changes his clothes. He goes to his study and sits in the dark, watching the sky slowly lighten through the window. At 6:47 a.m., the housekeeper arrives for her morning shift, lets herself in with her key, and calls out a cheerful greeting that echoes through the empty villa. When no one responds, she goes upstairs to check if they need breakfast. What she finds in the bedroom makes her scream, a sound that brings security running, that brings police sirens wailing through the quiet morning, that marks the moment when private tragedy becomes public crime. The crime scene that investigators document on the morning of July 19, 2019, tells a story that needs no narration. The bedroom where Mira's body is found shows clear signs of struggle. A lamp lies broken on the floor, its porcelain base shattered into pieces that glitter in the morning light. Mira's phone, or what remains of it, is scattered across the carpet in the other room, the screen destroyed, the casing cracked. Blood has dried on the carpet near the bed from defensive wounds on Mira's arms where her skin split when she raised them to protect her face and throat. The medical examiner who arrives at 8:15 a.m. notes petechial hemorrhaging in her eyes, the tiny burst blood vessels that are a signature of strangulation. Around her neck, the bruises form a clear pattern. Handprints. The investigator leading the case, a lieutenant named Rahman who has worked homicides in Dubai for 15 years, takes one look at the scene and knows this was not a sudden crime of passion. "This took time," he says to his junior officer. "He had minutes to stop. He chose not to." The autopsy conducted on July 19 confirms what the crime scene suggested. Mira died of asphyxiation caused by manual strangulation, the pressure applied to her throat cutting off oxygen to her brain over a period the medical examiner estimates at between 3 and 5 minutes. It is a long time to strangle someone, long enough to feel them struggle, long enough to hear them try to breathe, long enough to make a choice to continue. The autopsy also documents defensive wounds on both forearms, bruising on her shoulders consistent with being forcibly grabbed and held, and evidence that she had been in good health before her death. The toxicology report comes back clean. She had no drugs in her system, no alcohol, nothing that would have impaired her ability to fight back. She died sober and aware and terrified. On July 20th, the forensic team extracts data from Mira's shattered phone, a process that takes most of the day but yields crucial evidence. They recover encrypted messages between Mira and Antonio discussing their children, their finances, their future. They find her escape plan outlined in notes she thought were protected by password. They find bank records showing the monthly transfers to Manila, the evidence of a double life maintained with careful precision for nearly 2 years. They also find, in the phone records pulled from the telecommunications company, Sarah's call to Tamim on July 16th. When investigators interview Sarah on July 22nd, she admits everything. She told Tamim about Mira's escape plan because she was afraid of being implicated, afraid of losing her job, afraid of consequences that now seem trivial compared to what actually happened. "I thought I was helping," Sarah says, crying in the interview room. The investigator's response is blunt. "You helped kill her." On July 26th, Philippine authorities are contacted and asked to locate Antonio Cruz. His ship is in the Indian Ocean, 3 days from the nearest port. The shipping company diverts the vessel to Mumbai, and on July 29th, Antonio is met on the dock by officials who inform him that his wife has been killed. "Which wife?" he asks, before he can stop himself, the words revealing that on some level he knew Mira was hiding something. When they explain that Mira was married to both him and a sheikh in Dubai, that she had been living a double life for 2 years, Antonio's face goes through a series of expressions that the official documenting the interview will later describe as shock, betrayal, grief, and finally rage. "I didn't know," Antonio says. "I swear to God I didn't know about the sheikh." He provides his marriage certificate, the children's birth certificates, photographs of their wedding. The Philippine authorities issue a statement confirming that Mira's first marriage to Antonio was legal and valid, which means her second marriage to Tamim was bigamous under Philippine law, though valid under UAE law, which does not have easy access to Philippine marriage records. By early August, the media has the story and the headlines are predictable and cruel. Filipina nurse killed after sheikh discovers secret double life. Dubai murder, nurse married to 2 men. Fatal deception, the woman who tried to escape. The comment sections explode with judgment. Half the commenters call Mira a liar and a fraud who got what she deserved. The other half call her a victim of desperation, trapped by economic inequality and gender-based violence. The Filipino community in Dubai reacts with a mixture of shock, fear, and grief. Domestic workers and nurses who send money home to their own families look at Mira's story and see themselves, or at least see how close they are to making similar desperate choices. The debate rages online and in living rooms and in churches across the Gulf about where to place the blame, how much to condemn Mira's deception, and whether any lie justifies murder. The prosecutor building the case against Tamim has a clear narrative. Tamim al-Rashid was a controlling man who believed he owned his wife, who responded to her attempted escape with lethal violence. The physical evidence is overwhelming. The body, the crime scene, the messages, the witnesses who heard arguments through the walls. Tamim's own words to police when they arrested him that morning, sitting calmly in his study as if waiting for them. "She tried to leave me," he said. When asked if he hurt her, he replied simply, "She shouldn't have tried to leave." It is not quite a confession, but it is close enough. The defense attempts to construct a counter-narrative built on provocation. Tamim was betrayed, lied to, humiliated by a woman who married him under false pretenses and planned to rob him. What happened was a crime of passion, temporary insanity triggered by extreme emotional distress. But the prosecutor has an answer for this. "Strangulation takes minutes," she tells the court. "He had time to stop. He had time to walk away. He had time to call security, to lock her in a room, to do anything other than squeeze the life out of her with his bare hands. He chose violence. That is not passion. That is murder." The trial begins on October 15, 2019, exactly 2 years to the day after Tamim and Mira's wedding. The courtroom in Dubai Criminal Court is packed with journalists, with members of both families, with curious observers who want to see how justice will handle a case that cuts across so many sensitive issues. Tamim sits at the defense table in expensive clothing, his face showing little emotion, while prosecutors present their evidence piece by piece. The medical examiner testifies about the prolonged nature of the strangulation, about how Mira would have been conscious for most of it, aware she was dying, unable to breathe. Photographs of her body are shown and several people in the courtroom gasp or look away. The digital evidence is presented next, the messages between Mira and Antonio, her plans to escape, the money transfers. The prosecutor acknowledges all of it. Yes, she lied, the prosecutor says. Yes, she committed fraud. Yes, she planned to leave. But lying is not a capital offense. Running away is not punishable by death. Tamim al-Rashid appointed himself judge, jury, and executioner because his pride was wounded. That is murder. The defense calls Tamim to testify in December. He speaks quietly, describing how he loved Mira, how he gave her everything, how discovering her betrayal destroyed him. I felt like my whole world collapsed, he says. Everything I believed about her was a lie. Under cross-examination, the prosecutor asks the question that matters. Did you feel destroyed enough to kill her? Tamim pauses. I didn't mean to kill her. I just wanted her to stay. The prosecutor presses. So you strangled her? Tamim's voice drops to barely a whisper. I lost control. The prosecutor asks how long he lost control. 2 minutes? 5 minutes? 10? Tamim does not answer. The silence in the courtroom is deafening. On February 10, 2020, the judge delivers the verdict. Guilty of murder, intentional but not premeditated. The sentence is 20 years in prison. The judge's reasoning is clear. The defendant had ample opportunity to stop. He chose violence over reason. His wealth and status do not exempt him from the law. A woman is dead because he could not accept that she wanted to leave. That is murder. In the courtroom, reactions are mixed. Tamim shows no emotion. Mira's mother, who traveled from Manila for the verdict, cries. Antonio, sitting in the back row, looks hollowed out by grief and anger. Outside, some people say the sentence is too light. Others say it is too harsh, that Mira's lies should have been weighted more heavily. In March of 2020, Antonio files a civil lawsuit against Tamim's estate seeking damages for the loss of his wife and emotional distress. The case settles out of court for 2 million dirhams, roughly $545,000, money that will be held in trust for Sofia and Miguel. The children, now 6 and 4 years old, are being raised by their grandmother and Antonio, who left his ship job to stay on land and be present for them. They know their mother is dead. When they are older, they will know the full story of how she died trying to give them a better life. Sarah, the friend who betrayed Mira, leaves Dubai in April and returns to Kenya, unable to bear the weight of what her phone calls set in motion. In an interview a year later, she will say, I think about her every day. I should have helped her escape. The questions this case asks are ones without easy answers. How much do we blame Mira for the lies she told, the fraud she committed, the double life she maintained? She deceived everyone, Tamim most of all, and used his wealth to support a family he did not know existed. But she was also desperate, trapped between impossible choices, trying to survive in a world structured to exploit women like her. How much do we blame Tamim for his controlling behavior, his possessiveness, his belief that marriage gave him ownership over another human being? He was betrayed and humiliated, but he responded with lethal violence. Is wounded pride ever justification for murder? How much do we blame the systems that created the conditions for this tragedy? Economic inequality that forces people to migrate for work. Gender power imbalances that make women vulnerable to abuse. Legal structures that fail to protect the powerless from the powerful. Mira's story is not unique. Thousands of domestic workers and nurses from the Philippines, from Indonesia, from Kenya, from India work in the Gulf states, sending money home to families they rarely see, living under conditions that range from benign neglect to active exploitation. Some lie to survive. Some escape successfully. Some die trying. We can judge Mira's choices. We can debate whether her deception was survival or sin. But we must also understand the context that shaped those choices, the pressure that built up over years until lying felt like the only option left. For Sofia and Miguel, now 10 and 8 years old as this documentary is being made, their mother's legacy is complicated. Antonio tells them that their mother loved them more than anything, that every choice she made was an attempt to give them a better future, that she made mistakes but her intentions were pure. The money from the settlement pays for their education, for the house they live in, for a future more secure than the one Mira grew up in. In that sense, her plan worked. She wanted to lift her family out of poverty. She did. The cost was her life. If you have stayed with us through Mira's entire journey, from the night shift in Dubai to the villa where she died, thank you. This is the kind of story that deserves to be told in full, with context, with empathy, with honesty about the systems that trap people and the choices they make when trapped. If you want more cases like this, where we do not just tell you what happened but why it happened. Subscribe. Share this video. Start the conversation in the comments below. Tell us, do you think Mira was a victim or a villain? Do you think Tamim's sentence was fair? What would you have done in her position? Your thoughts matter. These conversations matter. Because stories like Mira's do not end when the verdict is read. They continue in every woman still trapped, still lying, still trying to survive.